Obosi Kingdom. The story of Adike and the 9 houses. Before kingdoms rose and borders were drawn, there was a forest, untouched, untamed, waiting for destiny to awaken it. From the heart of Umuru lineage came a hunter, a visionary named Adike, whose footsteps carved the birth of a kingdom. This is not just history. This is heritage, war, betrayal, and legacy etched in the mud of a land called Obosi. Join us as we journey into the forgotten past, where bloodlines battled and nations were born. Subscribe, like, and share to uncover Africa's hidden histories. The birth of Obosi. From forests to kingdoms. Long ago, in the heart of what is now southeastern Nigeria, a tale began. One of migration, ambition, sacrifice, and the forging of a legacy that would stand for centuries. At the dawn of this tale stood Adike, the youngest of 3 noble sons born to the ancient lineage of Umuru, the father of civilizations and custodian of sacred knowledge. His elder brothers, Alor and Ojoto, were men of quiet strength and wisdom, but it was Adike, the dreamer, the adventurer, the seeker of the wild, whose destiny would carve the foundation of what would become Obosi Kingdom. The brothers grew up in harmony, nestled in the embrace of Alor town, under the watchful gaze of their father. In time, Ojoto, restless and desiring his own space, ventured out and founded Ojoto town, and young Adike followed him. But while Ojoto sought structure, Adike yearned for freedom and untouched land, where nature spoke in whispers and the soil was raw with promise. One fateful day, bow slung across his shoulder and hunting spear in hand, Adike journeyed deep into the mysterious forests north of Ojoto. The forest was thick with vines and the songs of birds unknown to men. He followed the tracks of an antelope, but what he found was more than game. It was a land teeming with life. Rivers glistened like silver serpents under the sun, and wild animals grazed freely, undisturbed. "This is the land," he whispered to himself, "the land the gods have hidden from the eyes of many, and it shall be mine." He returned briefly to Ojoto and brought back his beloved wife, Akwergo, a woman of great strength and grace. Together, they began the difficult task of settling. Adike attempted to build a home with the mud around, but each time he raised the walls, the dry wind would crumble them back to dust. "This earth," he groaned one evening, sweat mixing with dirt on his brow, "refuses to stand. It falls apart like powdered bones." And so, in the way of wise men who name things with meaning, he called the place Obosi, the land whose mud refuses to hold. But though the earth was stubborn, Adike was more so. In time, he and Akwergo were blessed with 2 sons, Oba, the first, proud and headstrong, and Okodu, the second, thoughtful and quiet as the forest. And from these sons would spring a lineage that would shape the land for generations. Oba's son begot 3 strong men: Akparler, the brave and eldest; Izina, the wise, keeper of traditions; Akpor, the cunning and sharp-tongued. Okodu, not to be outdone, bore his own line through his sons. Nebo, who fathered Ortar and Iri; Oru, who had 1 son, Umuru; Owalib, who begot Makwam, Urowolu, and Ogumuma. Thus, 9 great-grandsons arose, strong pillars, each of whom would one day claim their place as founders of a mighty town. They were known as the Obosi Ebo Itenani, the 9 houses of Obosi. But peace, as always, is a fragile thing. The king's decree. Generations passed, and Obosi grew. From a rugged clearing in the forest, it became a thriving community. Yams grew tall, market days bustled, and stories of the mighty Adike echoed in the village square. Then came Igwe Mesa II, a king both respected and feared. One day, with the sound of royal drums echoing through the town, the Igwe proclaimed a new law. During the first harvest, let every man bring forth the yams from the head of his barn, Isimpa, as tribute to the throne. For the king must taste the finest of the land he rules. The people obeyed. The Isimpa, where the best yams were stored, became sacred offerings to the king. But in the quiet village of Umuru, one farmer had had enough. He was a clever man, a descendant of Umuru, son of Oru. Tired of surrendering his best harvest, he reversed the order of his barn. The lesser yams were placed in the Isimpa, and the finest hidden in the back, or Dumpa. But kings, like gods, have many eyes. When the Igwe tasted the yams that year, he frowned. These yams are dry, unworthy. He summoned his guards and stormed the barn. Bring me the yams from the tail, he ordered. And when he tasted them, his suspicion turned to fury. The farmer tried to explain, but the king, insulted by this deception, made a move to punish him publicly. In the chaos that followed, the farmer's fury exploded. With trembling hands and a blood-hot heart, he struck the Igwe down. The king lay dead, and with his fall, the heavens wept. The War of Brothers. The news of the king's murder tore through Obosi like wildfire. The great-grandsons of Adike were aghast. A king, a symbol of unity and pride, had been slain by one of their own. Led by the remaining houses, war was declared on Umuru. The conflict was swift and brutal. Spears clashed, flames licked the sky, and the blood of brothers soaked the earth. When the dust settled, 4 of the 9 founders had fallen. Akparlar the brave, Eziana the wise, Akpor the cunning, and Umuru, whose defiance sparked the war. In mourning and anger, the descendants of Umuru were banished, exiled for the sin that could not be forgiven. Their lands, once rich and fertile, were seized by the victors. Their homes became ashes, their names whispered only in warnings to children. The land once called Umuru is today known as Littlewood Estate and Mbata Idemali, a shadow of what once was. The legacy lives on. The 5 remaining great-grandsons, or Tar, Iri, Makwam, Urowulu, and Ogumuma, stood among the ruins. From their lineage would emerge the 5 great villages that form Obosi today. Through sorrow and sacrifice, they forged a new order, a kingdom tempered in fire, but unbroken in spirit. And to this day, when the drums beat and the festivals begin, the story of Adike, the hunter who tamed the forest, and his descendants who built and bled for the land, is told with pride. Obosi Kingdom stands not just on soil, but on stories, on blood and memory, on the mud that once refused to hold, but eventually gave way to a legacy that will never fall. From the roots of one man, a kingdom rose. Through triumph and tragedy, the legacy of Obosi lives on, etched in memory, carried in blood. What stories live in your lineage? What legacy do you carry? If this story moved you, like, comment, and share. Let the world hear the forgotten tales of Africa's kingdoms. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more timeless African stories.